Ferrari's new Formula 1 car is here, but already it looks like F1's most famous team has a lot of work to do to mould the SF26 into something that can meet the lofty expectations of its passionate fan base. That's not exactly a surprise. Ferrari telegraphed before Christmas that it would begin 2026 with what it called a Spec A version of the car to help prove out reliability, before upgrading the car aggressively for the start of the season in Australia. This helps explain why the internet went into meltdown over Lewis Hamilton stopping on track during his brief stint behind the wheel. Video captured by the swarm of fans and media gathered trackside showed Hamilton stopped on track, starting and travelling just a few metres before stopping again. Footage showed the car stopped in a slightly odd position just before the pit entry, as though the car had suddenly come to a halt, with Hamilton trying to move across to the pit lane. It wasn't a great look for a team that is under massive pressure following a seriously underwhelming and winless 2025. But what really happened is that after a single installation lap, Hamilton completed a 2-lap run, one behind a camera car and one separately. He finished that run with a practice start, then stopped on track and was recovered to the garage by the team. It might have looked like a disastrous start for Ferrari's crucial reliability mission with this new car, but a Ferrari spokesperson confirmed to the race that in actual fact the car had no issues. The new car was being shaken down with, let's face it, a bit too much white paint on it at Ferrari's own Fiorano test track, using what is known in F1 as a demonstration event. That means only 15 kilometres of running is allowed in total. At Fiorano, 15 kilometres equates to 5 laps. Aiming to fit in 2 Charles Leclerc laps after Hamilton's run, Ferrari had to be strict with how much distance was covered initially, so Hamilton's abrupt stoppage was necessary in order for Ferrari to adhere to that strict mileage limit. All of this also makes it difficult to compare the Ferrari's initial running to the new Mercedes W17, which completed a full 200 kilometres using a full-blown filming day or promotional event at Silverstone the day before. What we can say is that Ferrari is calling the SF26 a complete rethink of the car's architecture to meet the demands of the new chassis and engine rules this year, and says the car has cleaner lines and an overall philosophy focused on reducing weight and improving efficiency. The car's livery has more white alongside Ferrari's classic red to connect past and present, and a return to gloss paint after 7 years using a matte finish, similar to Red Bull. But we're not sure a livery that nods to the disastrous cars of 2016 and 1993 is such a good idea, unless Ferrari has suddenly developed a very sharp sense of humour. But regardless of your feelings on Ferrari's new look for 2026, there are also some key car design choices that could make or break the team's chances for the season ahead. Ferrari's initial focus with this car is clearly driven by concerns over reliability, as F1 shifts to a 50-50 split between internal combustion and purely kinetic energy recovery and electrical deployment. Team boss Fred Vasseur thinks this will be the main preoccupation of every team that runs at Barcelona next week, and it's already becoming clear that this winter's tight car build deadlines are making things extra tricky for teams. Ferrari will join McLaren in not appearing until day 2 in Spain, while Williams won't be there at all. When we saw the Mercedes W17 brake cover the day before Ferrari's new car appeared, we were very impressed with both the neat details in the design and the fact it was able to do 200 kilometres of faultless running straight out of the box. We can't say for certain the Ferrari is capable of that, thanks to the apples and oranges nature of their respective shakedowns, but it's already clear that each team has adopted some quite different initial concepts. Ferrari's front wing is devoid of the extra furniture we saw on the end plate of the Mercedes design, but it does have a scallop section not present on the W17. It's also more bulbous in the way it connects to the nose section, featuring wider nose pylons that are closer in design to the Racing Bull shape that appeared on Wednesday at Imola. The undercut of the nose section of the Ferrari is much less severe than on the Mercedes, so it'll be interesting to see which solution is correct. If the aim is to drive more air towards the front of the floor, then Ferrari might need to rethink this aspect. Ferrari and Mercedes also diverge quite heavily on the cooling setup, with Ferrari opting for a much narrower airbox opening but bigger side pods, while Mercedes has opted for a bigger airbox and engine cover, allowing for more tightly packaged side pods. There are some visual differences in the floor edge designs too, with Ferrari creating a taller bargeboard area and also curling up the floor edge to effectively make that bargeboard area a 4-element design. It would seem there are already some quite different attempts here at scavenging the disrupted airflow coming off the tyres and deciding where that goes. Probably the clearest distinct visual difference is that serrated shark fin engine cover on the Ferrari, which has also adopted pushrod rear suspension for the first time since 2011. Our resident F1 technical expert Gary Anderson called the car neat and tidy, but said there wasn't much there to leave him wide-eyed. That said, the key in 2026 will be how much each car develops through the season. Vasseur said Ferrari postponed this demonstration run as long as it could to create more time to develop the car. He says the focus in Barcelona, when the car next runs, will be to get the maximum information on the car, and that actual development parts won't appear until the second pre-season test in Bahrain. Ferrari is clearly trying to keep its options open here. It wants to begin 2026 with the maximum flexibility to develop in any direction. You could view that as a risk because it suggests a lack of confidence in your fundamental design and ability to pursue concepts inside the factory. Equally, you could see it as a perfectly pragmatic approach for a team that hasn't had the best track record recently when it comes to conceiving and developing successful F1 cars. It was very much one of the themes coming out of the press conference Ferrari held after the shakedown of its new car. Vasseur spoke of 2026 featuring a huge rate of development, and so Ferrari naturally wants to be in a position to be flexible enough in its design to be able to react to the best ideas when all the cars eventually come together in pre-season testing. That explains why this initial Spec A version of the SF26 might be seen as a little undercooked, considering how early Ferrari switched full focus to the project during a turbulent 2025 season. Keeping up with this incredible pace of development in 2026 is why you need to get your F1 Paddock Pass by joining the Race Members Club. Be the first to know the inside track on F1's biggest shake-up in decades and come behind the scenes with us for exclusive updates, expert analysis and bonus podcasts just for you. It's the perfect time to check out a 7-day free trial of the Race Members Club and see the true picture of what's happening in F1. Just head to the Members Club via the link below to claim your 7-day free trial. Lewis Hamilton's first Ferrari season was an abject disappointment, statistically his worst since he entered F1 in 2007. Much has been pinned on this rules reset, affording Hamilton the chance to move on from the ground effect era generation of cars that he clearly struggled with on a fundamental level. Vasseur calls this next era of F1 a full reset for the drivers, and indeed Haas driver Esteban Ocon has suggested he and his peers will need to forget everything they've learned since karting and almost start again from scratch. It potentially offers Hamilton the chance to go up against Charles Leclerc on a more level playing field than last year, in much the same way as Isaac Hadjar feels now is perhaps the best time for a long time to become Max Verstappen's next Red Bull victim. Indeed, Hamilton himself, speaking at Ferrari's shakedown event, has suggested the sheer scale of the change in terms of engines and aerodynamics almost completely resets the board for all drivers. But there remains that fundamental question of whether Ferrari is really prepared or even willing to mould itself to the demands of a 41-year-old driver who may now simply be past his best. Hamilton will at least have a new race engineer this season after Riccardo Adami was shunted into a role supporting the team's young driver academy and testing of previous cars programme. That might be seen as a good old-fashioned bit of internal Ferrari scapegoating in lieu of its superstar driver's underperformance, but switching race engineers won't fundamentally alter the challenge in front of Hamilton, which is to find a way to beat Leclerc, who increasingly looks like an all-time great driver who simply hasn't had the car yet to prove it to the wider world. If the SF26 turns out to be the right platform to mount a championship bid, and that's a big if given the perceived engine advantage enjoyed by Mercedes heading into 2026, then right now your money would be on Leclerc doing that winning, rather than the most statistically successful driver in F1 history.